And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson-Klutz, a principal solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules and recipes of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to expose Drupal's capabilities to external automation platforms? There's a module for that. It's called Orchestration, and it was created in August of 2025 by Jurgen Haas of Lake Drops in collaboration with Dries, who some of our listeners may be familiar with. It has a 1.0.0 version available, which supports Drupal 11.2 or newer. It is actively maintained, has security coverage, and a documentation site. And it has 11 open issues, none of which are bugs, which is pretty good, even though the site is only officially in use by 3 sites according to Drupal.org. Now, with the orchestration module installed, external systems can trigger Drupal workflows, call AI agents, and execute business logic through a unified API. The module functions as a bidirectional bridge, so Drupal events like content updates, user registrations, or form submissions can also trigger external processing. Using the orchestration module with the active pieces automation platform in particular was featured at about the 1 hour mark in the most recent Dries note from DrupalCon Vienna, and will include a link to watch that in the show notes. The complex example Dries shows is pulling content from a WordPress site using AI to evaluate whether or not each post met certain criteria, and then conditionally calling one of a couple of ECA functions in addition to using AI to rewrite the incoming content to change WordPress terminology into Drupalisms. Under the hood, orchestration provides an endpoint that will return a JSON list of services, including the properties that are needed for each service. The external service also needs to provide the username and password for a Drupal account, so you can control what services will be available based on permissions for the Drupal user that will be used. Already, orchestration works with ECA, AI agents, Tool API, and AI function calls. There's also work underway for integrations using webhooks for integration platforms that aren't ready to directly support Drupal's orchestration services. Now, in his presentation, Dries mentioned that they are looking for feedback. Specifically, they would like feedback on what platforms should have integrations available. So let's talk about orchestration.
Oh my God, Martin, I am so excited about this topic. Not even kidding. So, in last week's episode, I don't know if you listened, Martin, but we talked about orchestration a little bit, but we also talked about the service that Dries had mentioned in the keynote, which the name is failing me right now.
Active
Um,
pieces, maybe?
Active Pieces, there it was. And this looked really, really cool as far as a pathway into Drupal to be able to kind of kick off processes and vice versa, a pathway out of Drupal to other services. As somebody who's used Zapier in the past, I was like super excited to see this coming to Drupal because I was like, oh my gosh, I can connect all the things and it's easy. And even me as like not a developer or a developer who could be dangerous could do this and like just kind of move things into place and have things happen. So I actually suggested to Nick and Steven, maybe we do some orchestration on the Talking Drupal website to kind of Drupal codify some of our processes. But all in all, very excited to see this come into Drupal and excited to try to find that first use case where we can use it.
Yeah, I'm planning on evaluating orchestration maybe when it gets a little further along. I mean, I know Jurgen's been putting a lot of work into it, so I don't think it'll take too long to get further along. But I'm definitely going to be installing it and kind of evaluating it because it feels like between all these tools, we're starting to get back to the ability to build complex Drupal sites point and click, right? I mean, I imagine there's going to be some rough edges for getting it to that point still because, you know,
I mean,
that
I think I want to be clear there. We've always been able to build complex Drupal sites. There's no shortage of complex Drupal sites.
just
I
not
think we're
point and click.
well, right. I think we're making it a lot easier and accessible to people that aren't developers specifically or want to be involved in the code to be able to
Yeah.
do these tasks. Martin, I do have a question about orchestration. I'm assuming it works with other services like Obviously Dries demoed active pieces, which is open source, which like great, we love open source. But if I wanted to use it with Zapier, would it work or some other service?
Not
So
yet.
the yeah, so the work with active pieces has really been partly to provide them the code so that their interface will basically be able to pull in that list of available services and then in the UI sort of prompt for what are
Mhm.
the properties that you need to give it to be able to sort of properly connect to Drupal. For other services, and this is, to your point, one of the things that and you're gonna hoping for feedback on, I think they've got a list started already of some of the services they would like to provide a
Mhm.
similar integration with, but it sounds like part of that process will be getting someone on the other side. So for your example, Zapier, to
Mhm.
say, yes, we will add the Drupal integration and have it
Right.
connect to the orchestration piece, and maybe even as they've done with active pieces, write the necessary code so that it gets pulled in properly and all of those good things.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it may end up being a non-trivial, you know, set of work for each of those, particularly because it does require somebody on the other side who's willing to do the implementation there.
Mhm.
But obviously we've got some very smart people working on it. But the webhook piece does potentially provide a bit of a fallback. So as long as any of those services like a Zapier can just arbitrarily fire a webhook, there is
Mhm.
potentially a way for that to be the way before the sort of formal Drupal integration is ready
Yeah.
to basically have it fire that
Yeah,
webhook.
If you're very intentional and you know what you want your webhook to do, you can just fire it and it'll take it and do it. Got it.
Yep.
That is very
yeah,
exciting.
very cool. Well, thank you, Martin. As always, another great on topic module of the week. If folks wanted to connect or suggest a module of the week, what's the best way for them to do that?
We're always happy to have lively discussions about candidates for Module of the Week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as ManClue on all of the Drupal and social platforms.
Awesome. See you next week, Martin.
See you then.